A lot of people say, what's that? It's Pat. A ma'am or a sir, accept him or her, for whatever it might be. It's time for androgyny. Here comes Pat.
What is going on, Rick? I'm freaking out!
Calm down, Morty! Look at me! Calm down, Morty!
Take it. No, I can't do it.
You gotta calm yourself, Morty! Morty, calm down, Morty! Morty, you gotta calm down, Morty! Morty, will you listen to me, Morty? Shut up and listen to me!
Just a really quick add-on that I've had after I started fiddling around with the video. 2 points. One, I want to make sure you understand that Richard Dawkins is not alone in my fury. I'm just using him as a well-known example of people who think that science is all we need, and it's a simple cure-all for, it's a type of arrogance and blindness, and they're silent when they're needed. Anyways, I'll explain all of that. I just want to make sure that you know that I don't hate Richard Dawkins. He frustrates me in this regard, and he's a great symbol of a larger problem. And the other thing is that I don't believe in mistreating people, period, including people who are transgender. If it comes off of that like that in any way, I want to make sure you understand that is not at all what I'm endorsing, and I oppose that completely. Even if we have disagreements, I always treat them as they present themselves. They present as a man or as a woman. I've always been fine with that. Never had a problem with it. Anyways, just wanted to make sure I cleared that up.
Well, you know what it is, man? It's like supporting transgender rights eclipses all the logic involved in the subtle nuances of human behavior and sexuality. And the idea that a 3-year-old could have any notion of like what it's going to be like to be 8 or what it's going to be like to be 16, or whether or not hormonal changes are going to affect the way he expresses himself. So, and also, you're looking at this kid and you're deciding that this kid, because they're 3, is going to be transgender, and you want to turn them into a girl. What if this kid decides he's a gay man in 5 years?
They kill themselves.
Right. What if they decide that they're bisexual in 20 years? You know, if you care about that child, you don't interfere with that process, because I'm not the same thing that I was when I was 3, and you're not either. No one is. So to inject hormones and chemicals and even surgery, that we really have a very limited understanding about how much this interaction between a scalpel and a baby body, how much of the impact that has.
All right, so there's an issue I have around, not so much with Richard Dawkins, I suppose, as around people like him. He has built a legacy for himself, attacking people of faith, not personally, but their way of life, and accusing them essentially of being backwards relics of the past who cause all kinds of problems for society and hold us back. But there is a real lack of his presence of mind as speaking out, anything of that nature, when it comes to the susceptibility of people to believe other bullshit and dangerous things in society, including in large numbers, when they release their traditional views and they move away from a Christian community. These are serious problems. You can see it rising up, and I know people have made arguments against this, but you can see it in a number of secular areas, including China and Stalin's Soviet Union. Now, the crimes that went on there probably, as people like Hitchens have said, in fairness, probably are not because of atheism per se. But let's be honest. Does it play no role at all? No role at all. Because I know Stalin launched multiple attacks at religious groups who tried to resist him in a number of ways. Really horrifying stuff. See, this is human nature. Once you dig up people's values and their connections, their roots, and then you provide no kind of moral leadership, and you run away or you remain silent whenever serious problems come up in social discussions about morality and ethics, then you are part of the problem. That is extremely irresponsible. And in this case, Richard Dawkins, and if I'm incorrect about this, someone please point it out. I would love to hear what he has to say about this. The idea that there are multiple genders is anti-scientific. It is not science. We are male and we are female. And then when it comes to gender of male and female, it is not a social construct like some kind of whimsical idea or propaganda that's put on us. These are, as Ed Clinton said when he was on my podcast, it's like poles of the earth, north and south. Now, if someone's not exactly at the North Pole, you don't say, well, they're not north. They're still in the northern hemisphere. So it's a collection of ways that we display within our lives and within our society our male and female, our masculinity or femininity.
Hello everyone. So I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit annoyed to be making this video. I think it's absolutely tragic that I have to make a video proclaiming something as obvious and as apparent as the fact that there are only two genders. But in case you haven't been paying attention, life has really dwindled down to the point where it's necessary to say things like this. So here we go. So the reason I'm talking about this is because it's recently become a debate here on YouTube. It started with Jacqueline Glenn, an atheist YouTuber, and some other girl making a video talking about how, as they see it, there's only two genders. In comes Onision, my old buddy Onision. I'm sure you guys are having the flashbacks. And his video was just typical Onision style, retarded. He basically made a video calling them transphobic. 2016, facts are transphobic, imagine that. In comes a slew of SJWs who made videos, going after Jacqueline, talking about how there are millions of genders and people can be all of them or none of them at the same time, and it's transphobic to think anything but that. So it's just this huge mess, and I just wanted to bring things into perspective. So if you're going to join me on this journey of discovering the true number of genders, two, we're going to have to agree on one solid foundation, which is that gender is not a social construct. It is different than sex in that gender is a word used to describe differences between the sexes and the roles that they fill, but it's not socially constructed. It's almost entirely biological. Humans are a sexually dimorphic species, and gender roles as they manifest in women and men represent measurable differences in behaviors between the sexes, almost all of which are the result of genetic inclinations. In other words, we're driven hormonally, neurologically, and genetically to behave in certain ways according to our gender.
So the other thing I'll take issue with very quickly before I talk about why this is so destructive and why I'm very worried about it, is the idea of spectrum. Now, spectrum's fine when it comes to art and you're dealing with palettes of color, and it's fine when you're dealing with psychiatrists. They have come up with spectrum diagnoses that is in their DSM, but it is not meant for lay people or even experts in other fields. For instance, a judge or a principal, or in this case, a biologist. It is meant for people who have both psychology and medical training and understand how this book is meant to be read, be employed to diagnose and to treat people. Why is this important? Because people who like Dawkins have been responding to me on Twitter saying, oh, well, let me correct you. Gender is a spectrum. This is very incorrect. There is in the sense that you have different types of traits, but it's not the same as a spectrum as you'll find in psychiatry. Psychiatry, for instance, has taken someone who's a sociopath, someone who's a psychopath, and a few other types of malignant type of antisocial behaviors, and they've put them onto a spectrum called antisocial behavior disorders. And the reason they've done this is not because suddenly they're all one big smooth spectrum. That's not the way it's understood. It's because the spectrum is where the people land in different ways with the different types of symptoms that they have. So that within that concept of spectrum, you're trying to gauge where they are based on how they behave rather than just labels, because they're ending up with double labels, triple labels, saying, well, they're heavy on this label, light on this label. There's too much crossover. So it made sense. But it doesn't make sense with gender. If you got a guy who's wearing a dress or a woman who likes to box, that doesn't mean that they're in a spectrum. It just means that everyone has a little bit of variety. And some people, they defeat the stereotype more than others. Some people, in fact, this is where we get into transgenderism, have an actual disorder. It doesn't mean that they're stupid or evil, though some of them do have other psychological problems that go along with it that can get pretty extreme. The reason we diagnose it as a disorder is not to mistreat them, but rather to be able to understand how to help them live a happy life, because they, in this way, are not like other people.
Well. Accusations of me being a transphobe. Impossible. If I was transphobic, I wouldn't be standing here making videos about me being trans on the internet. Speaking Speaking of videos about being trans on the internet, let's get started, shall we?
Now, for those of you who are new here, hi, my name's Elle Grant. I am the only sane tranny in the Great White North, just so you know what y'all are getting into with this video. So, main point of the video, let's clear up some misconceptions as to what being trans is and what it is not. What it is: a mental disorder, a birth defect, really rare, not normal, should be accepted, maybe not promoted, but accepted. I don't want anybody getting hate crimed. Now, here's things that transgender is not, nor should it be. Trendy, a choice, some newfangled craze all those kids are up to. Here's the thing. People who are actually trans, as in have gender dysphoria and didn't go shopping for genders on the internet or something like that. What? Who does that? That's crazy. People who actually have gender dysphoria don't choose it. Because dysphoria is a bitch. If being trans was a choice, there wouldn't be any trans people. Because it fucking sucks. You'll hear people on the left going, oh, it's not a mental disorder. Did you just assume my gender? No. If it's not a mental disorder, then it's, what could it possibly be? It couldn't possibly be a choice, could it? That is the danger of not calling a spade a spade. If it looks like a mental disorder, sounds like a mental disorder, it most likely is a mental disorder. And maybe not even a disorder. Maybe it's just a mental condition. But there is something diagnosable to be diagnosed. And as soon as you take that away, you kind of open the floodgates for this. And this. And this. Is this the future you want? Gender is not socially constructed. Some gender roles are socially constructed. Not all, but some. Now, I don't think being trans should be something that's kept hidden from the general public, kept in the dark. However, I absolutely, under no circumstances, think that it should be promoted as something cool and easy and so worth it, because for a lot of people, it's just not worth it. Transitioning is, hands down, the hardest thing I have ever done. Like, do you know how much simpler my life would be if I was just gay? Much simpler is the answer.
And when we give this kind of idea to young people in schools, particularly from authority figures and people who teach science, hello, Richard Dawkins, people who teach science have a moral obligation to set this shit straight. Because kids are being given hormone blockers, hormone replacement. Their parents are just as confused and sometimes brainwashed on this issue as they are. And, you know, we got young girls getting their tits cut off. And we've got boys that want to have their balls cut off. This is really unhealthy.
So turn on Channel 7, Sunday nights on, you know, I mean, that's a show that's played here. And it's about the Transgender Safe Schools program. So I'm like, oh, fuck, what the hell? So I'm going to play that for you guys now, and we're going to watch it together. And I've already seen it, but holy shit. I'm sure that there are a ton of Australians out there that have no fucking idea that there are this many safe schools operating right now under our noses.
It's highly controversial and it's dividing schools around the country. The program is called Safe Schools. It's promoted as the answer to schoolyard bullying and discrimination, but its critics, and there are many, warn it's actually pushing an extreme left-wing ideology.
That's right, it is pushing an extreme left-wing ideology disguised as an anti-bullying campaign. Our media over here is just as left-wing as pretty much the rest of the world. You'll see it. Let's continue.
As PJ Madden reports, children as young as 5 are exposed to sexual material designed to increase their acceptance of homosexual and transgender kids.
This should be fucking illegal. Showing children as young as 5, even fucking younger than 5, sexual material. Are you fucking kidding me? This is almost pedophilia. This is fucking sick. This is child abuse. No fucking ifs and buts. I'm sorry. This is fucking child abuse.
But how young is too young?
Do you want to read me something from your diary?
Okay, this is my diary. When I was Balin, I felt sad because I don't like boys.
And who taught you that fucking shit? The fucking schools. The preschools, the kindergartens, all these fucking safe school cunts out there. Children are sponges. They soak up information. If you're going to teach them this shit, of course they're going to come home and question their identity, you fucking wankers.
But when I was a girl, I felt happy.
And who's that?
Balin.
How come he's crossed out?
Because I don't like Balin.
And why don't you like him? Because the schools taught you. They fucking brainwashed you, indoctrinated you, fed you this bullshit. People will make friends. They always do. It doesn't matter how fucking weird they are. Fucking Jesus. You don't change your child's gender just so she can get some friends. You fuckwits.
Briella is enrolled in what's known as a safe school, where a controversial policy of sexual openness enabled, even encouraged Balin to become Briella.
Even encouraged Balin to become Briella.
All the kids were really excited for her to come to school.
What? So this safe school with the anti-bullying policies weren't excited for him to come to school as a boy?
From bank to bank with an A-I-O-U.
This safe school is one of hundreds around Australia.
Hundreds around Australia.
Briella and her family believe it saved their little girl.
No, you've been brainwashed too. Hasn't saved your little girl. It's fucked up your little boy. You should be in jail.
But for others, safe schools are pushing extreme sexual beliefs that are completely inappropriate for young children.
Absolutely, 100% agree. There is no way a child needs to know this information. Let a child be a child, for fuck's sake.
It's an ideological battle that's pitting mums against mums.
I would call it unsafe. It's the Unsafe Schools Coalition program.
Blaire White lives a few suburbs away. She's got 4 children, including a daughter who's blind. They cheer for their local footy team and loved their local school until it became a safe school.
Now, this Safe Schools program has become, and rightly,
criticised over its agenda. The federally funded program tells children that they are gender fluid.
When you talk to the schools that have introduced this, they say it's made a huge difference to their school community.
Safe Schools was first set up last year in Victoria as an anti-bullying program to increase awareness and acceptance of homosexual and transgender children.
Children. Kids. Small adults. They should be at school learning, writing, reading, arithmetic, not fucking sex and transgender. None of that is relevant. When I was growing up, we got taught the basics, but that was around year 7, not in fucking preschool. The basics of how an egg is fertilized and make sure you use a condom. Nothing about what preference you had. That was irrelevant and should be irrelevant. Kids are put into school to learn, to make themselves prepared for the big bad world, not for fucking sexual education on this level. This is disgusting.
Safe Schools Coalition Victoria is about making schools safer.
Holy shit. You're an ugly cunt. No wonder you're a fucking lemon.
By challenging homophobia and transphobia.
The program is particularly contentious because it begins with children in kindergarten. One of its creators, Ros Ward, is a radical left-wing activist and gender campaigner.
I am actually very surprised that they said that. That blew my mind, that they actually said she was a radical. But it's true, exactly what they said. That is so true, and you can see what her agenda is.
It's really put up as a anti-bullying program, and if it was that, I'd be very happy with it. But in fact, it's more about advocacy. It's more about pushing a very radical LGBTQI program, and that refers to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer. It pushes that program on young children, and I think that's very unfair.
Well done, mate. Well done. You're absolutely right.
Safe Schools has highly sexualised content, and I don't believe that that's the school's place.
You cannot brainwash a child to be a different gender. I don't think that's possible.
You don't think that's possible? Children, like I said earlier, are sponges. They soak up information. And if you keep going on about you can be whatever gender you want, then of course the child's going to go home and try to rip his fucking dick off.
I just don't understand confusing children at such a young age. You know, they're all trying to develop healthily.
You don't understand? Let me explain it to you. It's cunts like this that want to impose their agenda on everything. They put it into the schools, into the preschools, into the kindergartens, into the universities, so that we can indoctrinate and brainwash all the little kiddies that are growing up to accept this as the norm. When, like I said, there's nothing wrong with being transgender or friggin' homosexual. That's not the issue. But if you program the kids in this way, they won't grow up and experience their own sexuality. They'll be bombarded with what you want to bombard them with. And again, why is this being taught to children? Children should be learning your basics, reading, writing, arithmetic, all the stuff that you need to deal with the world out there, not this shit.
Chella White became increasingly concerned about some of the dramatic changes at the safe school her children were attending.
My son was sitting in science class and the role monitor came in, handed a note to the science teacher. The science teacher read it out and it said, in 2016, you can wear the uniform of your choice.
Science class. In science class. 2016, you can wear whatever uniform you want. Girl or boy, cross-dress, it's all good. How is that educating them in science?
So it was an injection of cross-dressing, you know, encouraging students to go with their feelings.
There's that whole feelings over facts argument. We got to go with the fifis because fifis are more important than the facts.
Chella researched the Safe Schools program and was shocked by what it teaches, especially the concept that male and female are just two of dozens of genders.
Especially the concept that male and female are just two of dozens of genders.
The school told me that children are sexual beings. That didn't sit well with me because I don't agree with that statement.
She was also concerned with online resources connected to the program, which openly discuss sexually explicit content.
Minus 18 introduces children to penis tucking and packing.
Penis tucking and packing.
Breast binding.
Breast binding.
Hormone therapy.
Hormone therapy.
You know, it's quite legitimate that a child can undergo some hormone therapy to stop puberty.
To stop puberty?
That's too far. That's massively too far. It's out of control.
And now we'll see the influence of the left on the media.
Are you religious?
No, I'm not.
So these values and beliefs, where have they come from?
Oh, probably my mum. I don't know. I just, I just have a strong belief in biology. I think sex and gender have, for me, they are binary, if I can use that word, male or female. And I think anything else is to confuse.
Well done, love. Well done.
So we chose this school. It's a little bit of a drive.
Chella eventually pulled her children out of their school and enrolled them in a non-safe school in a neighbouring suburb.
Good on you, love. That's how we fight this shit. Pull our children out of these fucking mental institutions.
See ya. Have a good day.
You too.
It's fairly drastic action to pull your kids out of the school.
Yeah. Yeah, because I just didn't agree with the program, so I guess you've just got to make the decision, bite the bullet and stick to your beliefs.
Here we go again. Wait for the most relevant question they can come up with.
Chella, are you homophobic?
No, I'm not homophobic, but I'm very phobic towards safe schools. Yeah.
Chella is not alone. At the Australian Catholic University in Melbourne, Dr. Kevin Donnelly believes safe schools are threatening young, impressionable minds.
If you're looking at primary school, a lot of young children are uncertain, they're growing up. I'd argue their parents should be responsible for their education. And if they're being taught this very radical safe schools program in primary school, I think it's more about indoctrination rather than education.
I think it's more about indoctrination rather than education.
There are currently 545 registered safe schools in Australia.
There are currently 545 registered safe schools in Australia.
545 of these schools. And how many of us were aware of this happening?
Many others have introduced the program but choose not to publicise the fact to avoid controversy.
You heard right. Many others have introduced this fucking shit and have chosen not to tell you.
And before you think I'm exaggerating the problem, you should take a look at the numbers and how they're exploding. The number of children going in to doctors to say that they're transgender. And the way that the schools are proactively treating this. In Canada, there are laws specifically targeting parents, so they don't say that in the law. They're designed to make sure parents must respect their, children's identity. Not even he or she, but maybe zer, they, whatever. They don't have a gender. They're non-gender. Whatever the confusion may be.
Canada's done.
God.
Canada.
Oh my God.
What the fuck?
Holy crap.
First it was Bill C-16 with the if you misgender someone, you can be federally charged. And then in Canada, it was Motion 103, where it's a blasphemy law where if you criticize just Islam, doesn't matter if you...
Not other religions.
No, why would it be? It's just
Islamophobia.
Islam are the only oppressed ones, therefore blasphemy laws. Now, Bill 89 is on the table to be approved, and
you know it's gonna be approved.
Like honestly,
you know the cuckery is strong.
Well, the last two bills, I'm like, there's no way, and then they're passed, and I'm like, and this is like Jordan Peterson battled Bill C-16, and Agad Saad and Theron Mayer all battled. Three intelligent people battled Bill C-16 and failed. So Bill 89, let's just assume it's being passed.
And it's a slippery slope. He's been warning it's a slippery slope, and here we are at the next bill. What the hell is going to happen next?
And this is all within like a year.
I know.
Now imagine 10 years. I'm scared for my kids. I don't even know if I want to be living in Canada in the next 5 years.
Well, you should be, because they might be taken away from you with this new law.
Bill 89 is... your kids can be removed from the household for child abuse in a strict religious household if you're anti-LGBTQ. Now, I'm not saying fuck gay people, this and that. However, you can raise your kids however you fucking want, in my opinion. This is 1984, when the government is telling you if your father's like, I don't like gay people, or I'm not down for gay. I don't understand them. Your children can be removed
under the premise of abuse because you're not supporting their gender identity and expression, which they're kids, they're not fully developed yet, and they're not sure. So that uncertainty now, because they don't know, and if you're not supporting that uncertainty, then you can be charged and the kid will be removed from your house. People are going to come in and take your kid away.
Well, if the father sees a trans person and goes, that's weird, and then the kid tells someone, they can be removed.
This is not uncommon. It's getting to the point where everyone knows. I know someone whose kid sent their parent a threatening email linked to Canadian law that criminalizes as hate speech parents who do not use their children's preferred pronouns and gender. It's a crime here. And you better believe eventually someone's going to end up in front of the Human Rights Tribunal, and they're going to be in a lot of shit over this, just because they didn't call their son daughter or their daughter son. Well, they were a minor living in their house. And so all of this comes back to a society that's being more and more shaped by people like Richard Dawkins who go, science is the answer. It's getting rid of all this old baggage of human nature from the past. It's enlightenment. It'll teach us to have a better way of life. But then when these situations come up, mum's the word, silence. I guess too busy selling books, doing tours, making speeches. Got to make that coin. But let me tell you something. As you can see, David Silverman, Lawrence Krauss, and there'll be more people being thrown under the bus. You know, if you ignore this problem like they did, then the only thing I can say is, Richard, you can believe this. If they don't come and destroy your legacy while you're alive, they will destroy your legacy after you're dead. And if you don't say something now, you'll have no chance in the future. This is your opportunity. You could contribute something very meaningful here to help families and children in the realm of science in a moral way. So put your, put your money where your mouth is, but money seems to be the problem in this particular regard. So yeah, there's my comment. There's my response. It is not a spectrum. It is a concept of different, you are male and female, and your gender is simply the way you express it. Not every little thing's going to line up to a stereotype. You people need to straighten your shit out before you start flapping your lips about science, because you're making us all look bad and you're doing harm.
I think you can address bullying without then going to contested gender ideology. And this is contested. I mean, people like Germaine Greer and the feminist movement do not go along at all with this. And studies that have been done of transgendered people who have had sex reassignment surgery, people who have been followed for some 20 or so years, have found that after 10 years of, from the surgery, that their suicide mortality rate was actually 20 times higher than the non-transgendered population. So I'm very concerned that here we are encouraging young people to do things to their bodies, and the Minus 18 website, which Safe Schools promotes and tells kids that if they can't access it, that they should go to the teacher and have it unblocked. This actually encourages practices to kids' bodies like chest binding for young girls to compress their breast tissue, penis tucking. Now, this is taking kids on a trajectory that may well cause them to want to take radical action such as gender reassignment surgery, which even Johns Hopkins Hospital in the US, which pioneered this work, now no longer does.
That their suicide mortality rate was actually 20 times higher than the non-transgendered population.
And that's a hell of a price to pay for being stylish.